Yeah, because the expenses are through the roof, but it does open the door for, if more people are renting by the end of the year, it's possible that I will make money off rent or the trainings. hmm So yeah, so it just depends, and it also depends on the speed of which things get done, and then shifting to marketing for those things. And the person I was talking to yesterday, we discussed, you know, a lot of the things that we're talking about are options, which is why I kind of wanted to show you the overspending, because my whole plan with this type of program is if you do everything we talk about, more or less, that does pave the way for 6 figures a year. However, if there's certain things where you're like, I don't want to do that part, or I want to change this, and you're okay with the dip in income, great. And so the person I was talking to yesterday is I've shifted away from play therapy as a niche. It's technically still my specialty. I don't advertise or promote for that anymore. And I've been shifting focus, and then I've toned down dramatically on how I'm trying to get referrals in any way to focus on the business transition. So that's led a couple months of like this type of thing, but it's something that we looked ahead at and we're like, it's fine. So I'm okay if my monthly average falls to accommodate a transition that is more in line with what I want personally and professionally, and we can afford that dip. And so that's something I want to encourage in these two, that I will also be in the category of I'm not always going to look at my own teachings and say, I want to do that this month or in general. But I will say, I've done this. This is how it works. Or here's models for how it has worked. Does that make sense? So that is part of that congruency, is at the end of the day, you got to run your business the way you want to, and you want to be happy with what you look at. And sometimes making more money results in a less happy life. So you pick the trade-off in what routes you want, or what avenues to make money. Because we'll talk about that in further weeks too, but it doesn't have to all come from therapy. That'll help. Yeah. That's we don't have to do that today, but that's a fantastic direction to go at some point, is the debate of stopping your second job. Both from a do I want to or not, and what does the setup look like? So functionally, since you made this budget this way, that's what you need to quit your other job. So if those numbers are consistent, you could quit your other job. And this is not guaranteed, but the assumption is if you take, let's say you work 10, we'll say 20 hours a week at the other job, I don't know, and you shift it over and you don't work less, you just transition that 20 hours over, the assumption is you can bump those numbers up if you use that time productively. So something to consider. Yeah, unless you just love your second job and want to do both. Okay. Mhm. It is nice. Yeah, that can be good. One thing to pay attention to, and you don't sound like you're in this spot, but anytime you have the safety net statement, it's making sure it's not preventing you from growth. And if it feels like it might be, that's worth just reflecting on and reviewing with yourself more. Because when you know it's consistent, then it can say, well, I don't have to work as hard for it. Where, and it might, the other route might be even less income, but it might be more fulfilling to you. And so that's something, I mean, I've actively seen that now with this transition for me, but that I've talked with other people too, is just being very careful of safety nets providing comfort because of lack of growth, not to help growth. Because sometimes that the safety net's good because it gives you permission to maybe experiment more at private practice. Like, I'm going to try this route. It doesn't work. I'll work a couple more hours while I build that back the way I want. Versus, does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. I just talked to someone recently that was they were getting a promotion, or they were potentially being offered a promotion, and I brought up their title to them. I'm like, oh, you could be whatever so and so, and they're like, I don't like how that sounds. And we just talked about like that's safe to accept their promotion. They're debating. They're debating making a shift, and it's like, all right, well, I mean, you can take the promotion. It's the coolest title, but doesn't sound like you're in any form ecstatic about it. So, what's the alternative for you? And that's so I don't say that about you. I just know that everyone has a potential to get stuck there of like safe. Um, mhm, mm, mhm. I'll add an extra layer to that because I don't, I've not met him, so I'm not gonna. My assumption is that opinions coming from someone that does not own their own job. That's my assumption or business. The reason I say that is because I had this told to me and then I paid attention to it and I believe it to be true, which is owning your own business is way more job security than working for someone else. The difference is the other person, it's the illusion because you know what to expect every day, except for the day that you come in and there's layoffs and you get sent home right away. Whereas in our business, minus you just like breaking the law or doing some awful ethical violation, you will see trends for months before you're out of business. And you can then fix them or be like, maybe I do need to switch jobs. But you see it coming. It's so rare that everything just ends. And it does. There's still a risk there at times, but for the most part, you have way more foresight into if your job is secure still. And it gives you then permission to actually change that. Whereas if you're working for someone, even if you're working for someone else, and they say, hey, times are hard, we might be heading towards this direction, there's still often nothing you can do. Like you could work harder, but especially if you're lower level, it's like, what is a corporate decision potentially? Like I can't. So, yeah, there is more job security in your business in terms of foresight. Now, you might enter a business that's doomed to fail because you picked the wrong market, but you can still see it happening in live time. The other element, and I believe this strongly, is the best job security you have is your ability to do work. So there's never, I shouldn't say never. There's no business that I can think of that doesn't want people who show up on time, work hard, are respectful, and do their job well. So if you have a good work ethic, there might be difficulty in landing a job and the market goes up and down, but your ability to work is what makes you valuable generally. If we're talking like corporate talk, of like they look at a piece of paper and it's like, oh, she's doing all her work just fine. Great. It's your ability to work. And so that's job security. And of course, the information you learn along the way and your ability to do similar jobs. But if you know how to work and you know how to ask the right questions and essentially be a good employee, not necessarily just playing ball with the company, so to speak, but working hard, you'll you'll figure it out. And I think that's true for most people. And I guarantee people can point to outliers to that, but I think it's a fairly generalized truth for work and job security. So that's my tangent, my mini TED talk on that. You do what you want and you reflect how you want. But I'm happy to talk more about it too, because again, that ties right into this. You just want to be content at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter to me if you do more of one or the other. It's you want to go to bed every night like with a smile on your face and be happy to wake up. So whatever gets to that spot. Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a rant, but Yeah. I think all advice has its understanding where it comes from helps with the utility. So, yeah, I think there can be a lot of wisdom in that, and you're just in a different generation and a different career path, including how you're self-employed. That's a big difference, and yeah, I can understand. So, yeah, yeah. Well, I think I asked already if you had more questions about this page, other than stuff you're going to add. If there are more, let me know, or we can continue on to the sliding scale question. Okay. So I don't know if you have any type of, if you've put together any piece of paper for that at all.